So, hello, welcome back to another episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast. And I don't know if you can hear that, but I'm jogging at home. I always do that. I think it is actually a pretty great way to get in your cardio, since, you can do it everywhere. And since I'm also in the very bottom of my house, I'm not bothering anybody, I can be as loud as I want, as long as I'm just not disturbing people left and right, or actually left from me. Everything is good, so I can really suggest people to do so, to jog a little tiny bit while they are at home doing nothing anyway. I think it is actually pretty amazing. And the way I, calculate it, I would say, is with steps. I always do 7k steps when I'm jogging, so that throughout the day I'm able to get to around. Yesterday it was, I think, 10,500. Previous days it's been up to 17k. This has been the most very recently, and this on a daily basis, because I like cardio actually a bit. As fun as it may be for, bodybuilding fanatics, I like cardio. I think it is good, and I understand that it is healthy, and a very big one for me as well. I feel way better afterwards, dopamine spikes. I feel good, everything is nice, and I appreciate that. So, yeah, even though I just clearly noticed that it is not that easy. It's not that easy to speak and run and do something and actually talk about something that is worthwhile talking about. Even though, I guess, and I would say that it is actually a pretty great combination, I do not think about running, I rather think about talking. But I also hope that the audio is fine, or at least somewhat good, somewhat okay. The only problem there is that, there is no video once again, which is not that amazing. For the podcast, it really does not matter, but for YouTube, it is a bit a pain in the ass. But very recently I've been able, or not have been able, but I've had to do so fucking much shit that I kind of am forced to do that, to, deal with that. So yeah, decision making, very interesting. While I'm working out, I most often listen to some YouTube videos, watch some YouTube videos, so that, I just feel better doing so. Up to a point where I just, feel like that I'm listening more to YouTube than working out. This is then not that amazing and not good, because it is about doing sports and not really about watching YouTube early in the morning. Not something I should be doing, something that I kind of still do from time to time. But I've been listening to some German, streamer and public personality, very cool guy. And he was talking about decision making and how he makes decisions. And, it is actually a pretty great process. And afterwards, I've also, been looking up on YouTube some other processes and whatnot, even though I didn't really listen to this one, more or less lecture, since I guess it's been in a university. So coming back to the decision-making process he uses, which is actually very interesting. I do not know the exact English word for that, but it is more or less an institute that tests products and sees which product is the best. It's called Stiftung Warentest. They test a ton of things, from vacuums to maybe irons as well, for ironing your clothes. But anyway, so he has gotten his decision-making process from one of these institutes, because at least in my area, quite often they send out some magazines where all those new tests and whatnot are just printed, and so you can have a look at them and deal with them and work with them and whatnot. So this is, I think, pretty old. nowadays everyone would kind of go online and check it out there, which I think is also possible. But I'm not quite sure, because there are still certain companies that just only do print. They really give a fuck about social media, especially, but also about the interwebs. I also don't really know what I should, think about that approach to, well, technology, and life, kind of. So, this institute picks a few very important aspects of a product for them. And he has gotten it from an article about vacuums, indeed. And, of course, there might be certain characteristics of, I'd even call it vacuums, probably butchering the pronunciation. But anyway. So the thing is, certain aspects are probably going to be more important for one person than some other aspects. Like, does it have a cable, how strong it is, the price, and whatnot. So, when you're making a decision, it makes sense, and this is what he does, having a pro and con list. It starts very simplistic and very like, okay, you don't say. I've done that before, didn't work, but still. Having a pro and con list and boiling the pros and cons down to 3 aspects and 3 things. Also what this institute is doing, of course, there are a lot of pros and there are a lot of cons, but it really makes sense to boil it down to the 3 most important things, maybe even 5, but I guess it makes more sense to keep that space quite narrow, the space of the options that you have. And so, what is this in your life, What are the 3 most important things in your life? Might be, and maybe even should be, happiness, health. Third one might be, good relationships. Even though I would argue that happiness and good relationships are somehow connected. So, I don't know if you really should write it down a second time, or if it should be like something like sports, even though it is also contributing to my happiness and also to health. But let's just assume that I'm having a third one as well. So, and the con side might be maybe the complete opposites. I think it actually also makes sense to only go for the pros and deal with it then. So, the thing is, you have the opportunity to go for a drink with your friends. Are you going to do that? Does it make sense according to your preferences in life, according to what you want to get out of life? Does it make sense to attend this party or gathering, whatever it might be in the end? Does it make sense? Well, in terms of health, yeah, probably. Socializing is important, having friends is important, meeting new people might be something that actually makes you happy. So, great. The second thing, happiness. Does it make you happy? Well, probably does. The third one might be actually money, so I'm thinking about it, It's gonna cost you a bit. But you can actually also make sure that it is not costing you that much. Also in terms of health, because I'm talking about drinking, you could also make sure that you're not drinking anything alcohol-based, or with alcohol. So you might not be drinking a beer, but, you might just, you might just drink a cola. I don't know if this is actually better, but at least no alcohol. So, does it make sense to go to this party? Well, yes, it does. Of course, it also really depends on the situation that you are in. Are you tired? Do you feel unwell? Do you think because of COVID it is actually not that of a great idea? And so on and so forth. Like multiple different ways in which the whole decision-making process can be influenced and actually also changed. Maybe something else. I just only think about things where it is about drinking. the decision to buy a new car. Okay, is it going to make you happy? And I think it is actually very important to be honest to yourself about what makes you happy and what doesn't, and also thinking long term. Well, is this car going to make you happy at first? Well, it probably is going to make you happy, yeah. Is it going to be long term? Probably. Is it costing you a lot of money and therefore maybe kind of not that amazing for your financial health? Yes, so hard no. And here, so this German personality, or public personality, whatever, said, well, if it is only, if it is only quite hurting one aspect, one pro aspect, you should not be doing it. There's no sensible reason why you should. And this actually also makes sense, why should you buy a car then? Unless, this is not really in any kind of way impairing your financial health, which can be the case if you just, have a lot of money, you've made a lot of money, and or you have a car or you buy a car that is not that expensive, could also be the case. Who knows? So this is a hard no. Maybe something else. Should I stick to this job that is not making me happy? And I think now it becomes pretty difficult. Financially wise, well, unless you have a second option, something else that you could be doing, you should keep this job. Even though it might be making you unhappy, therefore maybe even unhealthy, because you might be working a lot and not getting a lot out of it. So, everything's actually against having this job. But, as I said before, thinking long term and just being smart about decisions is very important. One decision that you could make, though, is gradually deciding to go away from the job. Trying to apply to other jobs. Trying to just have a second option and trying to, work yourself out of that. So that eventually you can butcher that job and do something else. Something that might make you happier, or should actually make you happier. And something that is just better for you, I would say. Which is amazing and great. I think in the end, decision making is actually something that's quite easy to do. Because we all know what is good for us. Not necessarily what makes us happy, but I think throughout the years, we all notice certain situations and, aspects of life that just, make us feel well. For me, for example, it might be having something to do, all the time, always knowing, okay, I could be doing this and I could be doing that, and it is sensible to do. Of course, I could watch YouTube all day long and, call it something to do, but it is not sensible at all. There's no way or no reason why I should be doing that, And yeah, I think this is actually a pretty interesting process. It's not the newest one, not the best one, but one disclaimer and one important aspect of this whole process is making sure that you boil it down to 3 cons. The 3 most important things. 3. Nothing more, and I would also argue nothing less. Because if there's more, you're going to be able to include more things. And also, even though it is stated that if, this one decision impairs one aspect of the pros or one of the pros, you should, ditch it. You should not be doing it. Unless I said, it just doesn't make any sense. And it is going to lead to long-term unhealthiness and long-term other negative aspects that are hurting your 3 most important things in life. This doesn't make any sense then. Of course, I don't want to have this job, but next month I'm gonna have to live on a fucking bridge. Is this gonna be nice? No, not at all. Not fucking nice. But yeah, I think this is gonna be it for this episode, and I'm gonna wish you the best. So see you soon.